Welcome to the Business of Dance podcast, where you'll learn what it takes to create your dream professional dance career.
Join us as we dive into the insights and experiences of the world's top dance industry professionals, including dancers, choreographers, agents, casting directors, educators, and other dance industry experts.
We explore a diverse range of topics, from personal development and mental skills to audition techniques, creating meaningful industry connections, social media marketing, seeking out dance agents and casting opportunities, on-the-job etiquette, talent unions, pitching to the media, health, finances, and so much more.
Here is your host, Menina Fortunato.
Today's guest, he is the executive director of ICDR, which is International Competitive Dance Registry. He's been in the business for over 25 years as a performer, choreographer, adjudicator, competition director, casting agent, producer. He's worked on a ton of projects, anything from Camp Rock 2, Hairspray Tour. He's done collaborations with Madonna, Ariana Grande, Nick Jonas, Demi Lovato, and creative work for the Toronto Symphony Orchestra, National Ballet of Canada, Pepsi, and The Amazing Race in Canada. Without further ado, from Toronto, Ontario, please welcome Jamie Hodgins. Hey.
Hi, everyone. I'm Menina.
Hi, welcome to my world.
Thank you.
And good to officially meet you face to face because
we've known each other for some time. Yeah.
But we've never actually seen each other. Well, we never met in the flesh, but this never made virtually or over Zoom or anything. We've chatted on the phone, at emails. Yep. Anyways, so glad to have you. I know there's a lot of exciting topics that we want to cover, but before we dive into, especially what you're doing right now in your company, I want to rewind and talk about the very beginning of your dance journey. When did you start dancing? Where are you from originally? What did that even look like? Were you a comp kid? Take us back to that.
Definitely a late bloomer. I started dancing at 16, very, very late. Hip hop was just always something that I loved to do. You couldn't pull me off a dance floor at a wedding. Back then, it was a little bit more challenging when guys wanted to jump into jazz and ballet and other things like that. So I didn't have the encouragement to jump in at 12 or 11. But when I started, I was pretty much teaching within that studio within 6 months of taking my first class. I started choreographing. Yeah, it just sort of, someone took a chance on me with choreography. I've always just been a very kind of effervescent person. So teaching came naturally to me and then moved from there. I'm from Ottawa, by the way. So Ottawa, Canada. Yeah.
Love that. And Toronto is your home base now? Or are you still in Ottawa?
Yeah, no, I lived in Toronto now. I moved to Toronto in 2007. I kind of did the studio scene for a while. I competed, choreographed, but then I auditioned for a reality show that changed my life. It was the search for Canada's next triple threat superstar. It was called Triple Sensation.
Oh,
yeah.
I didn't know this show. When was this?
The first season was in 2007 and the second season was in 2008.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I was living in LA at the time, so that's probably why I didn't know about it. That's so cool. What did you do on the show?
I kind of lied to my boss, and I was working in Ottawa and drove to Montreal, bought the sheet music 10 minutes before the audition, had never sang with a piano before, was very, very nervous. But yeah, then I got to the finals. I was in the top 5 in Canada and got signed to an agency. Actually, the panel, you will know. The panel was Marvin Hamlish.
Don't know. I don't know who that is.
He wrote a chorus line, the late Marvin Hamlish.
Oh, okay.
Joel Grey was part of the show as well. Cheetah Rivera was on the show.
Oh,
Cynthia Dale, Sergio Trujillo, Adrian Noble from the Royal Shakespeare Company. And the executive producer was Garth Drabinsky.
Wow.
Yeah.
So heavy hitters. So you got signed to your first agent at that point, but you were still technically based in Ottawa at the time.
Yeah, so the show moved me to Toronto, and it was actually an interesting format of a show. The winner got a $250,000 scholarship to any school they wanted to go to, an art school. So it was we got marked and graded on dance classes, singing classes, acting classes. And then from there, I got signed to an agency, started auditioning for a lot of shows. I started working behind the camera for the Mini Pop Kids. If anyone knows what the Mini Pop Kids, it's like
They've
Kids
been around
Pop.
forever.
Yeah. And that was an interesting scenario for me because I was traveling with kids that were borderline like little celebrities and their parents. So yeah, that was a very interesting chapter. And I've done a lot of production as well behind the camera. And I have my own event in Toronto that is all video capture on set on camera experience. And now I am empowered, inspired to lead a new generation where dancer legitimacy, respect, and safety comes first. So that's my career in a nutshell.
That's the short version, right?
The short version.
The short version of the career. Okay, I want to backtrack just a little bit. So you just got signed to an agent. You're in Ottawa. That moved you to Toronto. How did you go from being a dancer to working in production? Was it through relationships, or did you have any training in that element, or was it something that naturally happened, or was it intentional? How did that work out?
That's a great question. I think just to give everyone a little bit of like where my head was at, like I always wanted to be a performer. I always wanted to make a career out of this. You know, my biggest dream was to be in a movie. Like that's it. I just wanted to be in like, you know, Newsies because that was like my frame of reference. You know, I wanted to be in something like Camp Rock 2, essentially, you know? So that was my dream and I had no idea how to do it. I would send cover letters to agents, you know, all the way from Ottawa and just mail them snail mail with a headshot, no clue what to do. But it was really, and I also took a marketing communications degree at the University of Ottawa. Okay. So I always had a parallel career and I always thought that that was very important to keep open. So simultaneously, as I was always like pursuing and auditioning for shows, I was always keeping, you know, the art outlet alive through different various jobs, whether it be, you know, working for the Toronto Fringe Festival or, you know, doing production, right? When the Mini Pop Kids hired me as a choreographer, I was like, oh, this is great. And then I started to see management and touring and producing and merchandise. And I just started getting my feet wet in a whole bunch of other different departments and different kind of like hats to wear. And it was really inspiring. And I really loved that side of it. So that's how I kind of jumped into production. I'd say through the choreographer lens, I started directing and started kind of jumping behind the camera a lot more.
Now, were you simultaneously auditioning while still working in production, or did you do the dance portion first and then transition?
I would say dance performer first and then transition. Absolutely. I think I had a very unique point of view coming into production and being a director as a dancer first. You know, you really have to have like a visionary kind of lens in order to step in as a director role and also to be a leader, right? It's not just about, are you talented and can you make cool stuff? It's about, can you empower your team to be the best version of themselves? And then sort of that's when the real magical shivers on the back of your neck come into play when you're working on set and you're like, well, this is fantastic. This is where I'm meant to be kind of thing.
So what advice would you give to a dancer that might want to explore whether it's choreography, directing, producing, because management, like it looks like I haven't met someone like you other than myself that actually tapped into those other areas. What would be the best way? Did your formal education help, or was it more through working on the fly and actually working on the job, if you will?
I would say it was definitely to take chances on different things and to surround yourself with the right people. There's no harm if you are inspired by someone, follow everyone they're working with that they post, right? That's what I always did. Like I was really hungry about finding the right people that I could aspire to. And I would literally offer to work for them for free. I wanted in their shadow. I wanted to learn from them. And it was those people that kind of turned around when they were too busy. And all of a sudden I was getting jobs naturally, right? Like they were passing me jobs because they were too booked and blessed. So suddenly I was becoming booked and blessed. And I was like, oh my gosh. And it was just really from being nice and saying yes to what someone else would have said no to. So I think saying yes is very, very important. I'm going to give you an example. When I moved to Toronto, I didn't have a job. I didn't have any studios here. That's how I made a lot of my money, is teaching dance. So I was like, okay, well, I don't have any food either. How am I going to feed myself? So I actually got a job through a casting agency that was just background. We're talking like cattle, like you don't matter. You are a sea of, like, you're one of 1,000 people. And it didn't matter for me because I got to meet people. They fed me. So I was like happy because I can't cook either. And I was in really cool movies. I did The Love Guru with Mike Myers. And I mean, it was horrible. It was horrible because we were like in the stands of a hockey arena freezing for 4 days straight. Oh, it was awful. But I still had fun. And another gig I did, The Time Traveler's Wife, and I had to like drink non-alcoholic beer and smoke herbal cigarettes while watching The Violent Femmes. It was really fun. I'm not going to lie. But then here's the kicker. So then I was background on Camp Rock. So I sat there, Menina, and I was so upset because I was watching like Tamina Pollock Paris, who's phenomenal and a friend of mine, dance as a performer. And I'm sitting there as a background performer wishing I would have known about it or that I would have auditioned. So I sat there and I was very angry. And I was like, why did my agent send me for this? Why didn't I know about it? Why am I here and not dancing? And then I said to myself, if there's ever a Camp Rock 2, I manifested it in that seat. And I said, I will book it no matter what happens. This is my chance to make that dream come true that I told you guys about earlier. I really wanted to be in a Disney movie. Like, a movie would have been great, but Disney movie was like the upper echelon. Like, that was the gold star. So all that to say is I had a really reputable agency, wonderful agency. I'm not going to mention their name, but they didn't get me an audition for Camp Rock 2. So I secured my own audition through another agency. I showed up at the audition and even the casting agent was like, Jamie, you're not with them. Why are you? I was like, look, I don't care who submitted me. I'm here. Get me in. And I booked it. And when I got that call, Menina, the best feeling in the world. Like, literally, that is top 5 moments in my life was when my agent called me and said, you booked Camp Rock 2. How did you get the audition? I'm like, well, I don't even want to give you commission now, but
so yeah. Kidding. But there's 2 things I love about. I love that you just created the opportunity for yourself and you were like, I don't care if nobody gave me the opportunity. I'm getting in the room. So that just shows your sheer determination, which I think is very valuable for the dancers to hear. But the other one that I also, going back to what you were saying previously, is just getting in the room and offering your help, even pro bono in the early stages, is a very smart strategy. I'm not advocating for working for free, but when you've got nothing to show, when you have to prove yourself. You've got let's just say you have no education, no training, no work experience. Who's going to hire you? So the best way to prove yourself is to just offer your services pro bono initially, just so that they can see your value and see your worth. Then it's like a lease option to buy kind of thing where you got a sample, you like what I can offer, then you can go in for the actual paid work. And as you said, the best way to also get into certain departments is to assist somebody in those departments, because when they're so-called booked and blessed, then they're so busy and they're overwhelmed and they're like, well, I can't do both jobs. So I'm going to send you here. I'm going to go over here. And then you create relationships working on that job. And that leads to another job. And it snowballs. I did the same thing when I worked on the creative team with Brian Friedman on the America's Got Talent and the X Factor. He only hired me as a dancer. And I'm like, no, I want to work on the creative side. And same thing. I was like, I will just volunteer for the casting. I will just help out. And then it was like, oh, are you available for an episode? We need you.
No one's going to do it for you, right, Menina? And
you have to create the opportunity for yourself. And don't be afraid to ask for what you want.
I was just going to say that. Like, if you're way too afraid to, just go up, they're not even going to remember the next day that you asked this very important question to you. right? And there are people in this industry that will really respect it and see a lot of their choices in what you're asking, and so many people I've been kind of paying that forward because I wish someone would have been like a little bit more forward with some of the things I had to learn on my own. There wasn't as much resources for our generation when we were, we just really had to figure it out. And I'm going to give you another example. Like I helped produce Priyanka, the drag queen, some of her music videos. It was a virtual production, really cool technology where that's 3D environments in the wall, in a LED wall. Anyway, to make a long story short, Savannah Wright, that is one of the dancers I use a lot in terms of all of my choreography and special projects. I also knew she was in production. So I called her and I was like, do you want a PA on this set? Like, it's exactly what you love. It's dancing, like Caroline Torty is, choreographing. Like, I think you'll just want to be around it. She said, yeah, no problem. It was no pay. She walked on set. And of course, a dancer went down and she filled in. She learned the choreography in less than 45 minutes. Ooh. And she was moved from a non-paid PA to a paid background dancer that is featured in an amazing music video, right? So she took a chance. And then I was like, oh, dancer down. Savannah is one of the best dancers I've ever worked with. And she was just right there and stepped in and loved it and was all excited about it. So yeah.
I love that. That's another reminder. You just got to get in the room and be at the right place at the right time. That same thing happened to one of our mentees. She was on set assisting Paul Becker for the choreography reality show last year. And she wasn't there as a paid worker. She was just there to shadow him. And a dancer had to cancel last minute. And it was late at night and they had to be in rehearsals the next day. We need to replace a dancer. Who are we going to replace her with? She's literally in the room when it happened. So I was like, all right, you're hired. Principal dancer. Done. No audition.
Perfect.
Just
easy.
Didn't even have to call agents and do auditions and submissions. It was just like, you're in the room. Oh, here's your paperwork. Sign here.
And I think it's also interesting do we want to be in this for the short haul or the long haul, right? Being nice will definitely come back. Absolutely. Like there are casting directors that literally just call me, and say, do you want to do this show? Like I just got a call last summer to be on the new Handmaid's Tale, which was absolutely amazing, and I didn't have to audition. And when that starts happening to you, and people just know what your skill level is and they know that you might be interested in something, it's really rewarding because that didn't happen overnight. That was years and decades of forging relationships and keeping those bridges intact and not burning them, regardless of what may happen in a specific scenario. It's a small, tight-knit industry. And I think we all, the people that last the test of time are not the most talented ones. Like, it's very true.
You're speaking to the choir. I'm not the most talented in anything. The dancer, teacher, choreographer, producer. But it's the ones that persevere. It's the ones that I love that you said relationships. Dancers, yes. What do I always say? Contacts equals contracts.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, I tell them all the time. Yeah, steal it.
I love it.
It's so true, though, because we're such a relationship business. I mean, even how we connected was through my brother, then through me. Like, you worked for my family's 5, 6, 7, 8 Showtime competition years ago.
Yep.
And it was somehow you emailed me and I was like, who is this guy? And my brother's like, oh, he worked for Showtime. I was like, okay, amazing. We jumped on a call and boom, here we are today. There was no job application or anything like that. It was just through relationships.
And this whole industry is all relationships. It's all like, I call it like the inner circles, right? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So just the fact that I wanted to talk to Menina about something that I'm really inspired by, that I'm involved with, that I'm building for all of you dancers, absolutely. And we'll get there. Like, it would have been a lot harder for me to get, to Menina's top of mind has she not heard my name before, or, knew someone that knew me, or, it does really help to not be afraid to say yes and not be afraid to take chances on a specific gig, and here's another example. I'm going to ask the group, how much do you think we got paid to dance for Ariana Grande on the Much Music Video Awards per hour? I'm just guessing. How much do you think it worked out to per hour?
The answer is,
any guesses?
Put in the chat. Let's see what we've got. We got
200 per hour.
Haha, I wish. 11.
150.
100. 150.
35.
168.
68.
That's random. 67.
22.55. Okay, well, I'll tell you.
45.
It worked out to less than $3 an hour.
You're kidding.
No.
It wasn't a union job?
No. So it was an honorarium, I'm not afraid to say this anymore. And I was afraid to say how not fair it was before.
Yeah.
I mean, I could tell you all the amazing names that danced for Ariana. And, it was the last 35 seconds of one less problem without you. I got one less, this was back in the day. She was just coming up. Anyway, and the rates for the Much Music Video Awards were just tanking. They were at $1,000 honorarium, then it was at $850, then it was $500, and then our year it was $250. And with all the rehearsals, it worked out to $3 an hour.
Were the agents not involved in this project?
Well, no, it was non-union, and there was no protection under the ACTRA kind of union for live performance at that stage in that, time. So to make a long story short, I'm very happy that I said yes, because I knew it wasn't right in terms of what they weren't paying us, but, that kind of leveled up my career, right? It kind of gave me that extra.
The credit.
Yeah. And there is a reality that every dancer has to face with, you will be positioned or propositioned with, oh, it'll be great for your resume. Absolutely. And you need to make that informed decision of whether it is good for your resume and whether it is worth your time. But going back to what we were saying earlier, if you know enough about them, say yes, because those relationships, even that I met, we actually bonded by how ridiculous it was that we were getting paid so little.
A big joke at that point. You're working for, how is that even legal is my question. The labor laws, there's got a low minimum wage and you're on television. There's got to be, that's crazy. Well, I'm sorry you went through that. And I'm sure it had nothing to do with Ariana herself. It was probably production, but
it was all production. And to be honest, I had everything ready to go to talk to some people to kind of blow up the story. I was just too afraid, Yeah.
I probably would have been that dancer. I was that dancer on a set that it was a union job and we were asked to lip singing and we were paid as actor rates, which is weird, but in UBCP, actor rate is non-speaking. But we were supposed to be variety performers once you lip sing and open your mouth. So we didn't this was in Vancouver, actually. I was represented by my LA agents, but there was no other Canadian agency at the time. And so I acted on behalf of the whole cast and I went to the union and I said, I think you need to bring a rep onto set. We are lip singing. And I do believe that we are entitled to higher compensation. And the choreographers didn't speak up and advocate for us. I actually was the one that wrote the letter, and production probably hates me to this day because everybody got a bump, and everybody
gotcha. Good for you.
Everybody got paid higher bumps.
I hope all those dancers thanked you because that's not easy to do, right? To step out of that, complacency lane, and say, well, this is not right, Yeah, that happened to us too.
I just knew it wasn't right because I had worked enough jobs at that stage in my career that I was like, guys, this is not how it goes down. And everybody was scared. Nobody had advocacy, representation. Nobody had agents at the time. Nobody really understood the rules, and everybody was scared to lose their jobs. But I was like, well, I'll be the bulldog in all this and speak up, and I did. And I'm sure production hated me, but I thought it was the right thing to do. I'm like, this is the union. This is what the union's for, is to protect talent for situations like that. All right. Anyways, I want to move on because there is a more important topic that I think we need to enlighten. First of all, what is your company? What does it do exactly? And what is your mission behind it?
Amazing. Well, the company is called the ICDR, the International Competitive Dancer Registry. And I guess I just have a question for, the group. Imagine if you had a permanent digital record that was only visible to you, your verified guardian, and your studio director when you were at the studio level, of everything you ever did, everything you ever won at competition, every convention you ever participated in, an exam that you might have gotten through Cicchetti or through RAD or through ADAPT syllabus, programs, essentially like your history as a dancer, because everyone on this call has contributed a lot to their career already in hard work, in emotion, and in financing, right? So there's also a reality that we don't often talk about, everybody, is that we don't actually have a single source of truth for Ava, for Sophia, for Tommy, for Abigail, for Lisa, right? There are profiles for you dancers living on as many systems that your studios have ever registered you on, essentially. So what the ICDR is doing is trying to say, we have to prove who we are in this industry. We have to verify who we are. And then what that can do is unlock a shared participant ID number that should be used all these different registration providers where we all invest so much time and money and we actually get awards, but they often just collect dust on a shelf, right? You can't actually take that trophy and use it really in your real life. So what we're trying to say is we all have to verify who we are. You can go on icdrdance.com and do a verification, and it unlocks a shared participant ID that with the right amount of support, I can make sure that ID works in every single dance system. But it's going to take a village. It's going to take more than a village. It's going to take everybody believing in what this can be. Because think about it, guys, athletes get a lot, right? Dancers don't get that much. And it's because we don't have structure in our industry. It's the structure that is missing. It's the structure that devalues what happens at the competition level. Raise your hand. Actually, I have a question for you guys. Raise your hand if you've ever questioned the age or level of a competitor at an event. So why are we skipping the fundamental step of actually verifying a competitor's age in dance? We do it in lacrosse. We do it in gymnastics. We do it in hockey, everywhere else. So what makes dance so different? I know it's artistic. I know it's subjective, but does that really negate our responsibility to make sure that we have a level playing field for anyone competing? Or that your images and your videos, raise your hand if your images and videos at competition are pretty important to you, right? Sometimes we're using just a birth date to unlock those images and those videos, right? This is not okay. This is a 2026. Our industry is back in the dark ages. It's the wild, wild west. And so what the ICDR is doing is through a one-time verification process, it unlocks an industry dance ID number that can protect your media, honor your journey, and make everything more fair. That was a long answer.
No, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. And what is your mission? What are you hoping to achieve long-term with this new system?
Well, long-term, imagine everybody, like the dance awards, right, is one of the best stages, one of the top stages in our industry. The senior titleist that just won senior best dancer last year, anyone can really say they've won anything, right? We're trying to bring a lot of legitimacy and respect back to dance and give us the assurances that, we're verifying competitor data, protecting that competitor data. So in Menina, in 5 years, when, we're using a lot more verified data, we're going to be able to celebrate more of the outcomes that come from competition. There will be a lot better scholarship opportunities. There will be a lot more respect for the competitive circuit, which, raise your hand if you've ever competed on stage before, right? We've all been there. We all know how powerful it is, but hopefully with time, we can really prove that this ID number can protect your data and give you guys that verified record. Imagine after 5 years of competing and you use that record to audition for, a TV show or even a part-time job if you're a part-time dancer, right? That's shown commitment for 5 years. Raise your hand if that would be of interest to you, a record of everything you've ever done and won and participated in it. Athletes have that. They have all those sport profiles.
Your scoreboard.
Yeah.
It's like your digital scoreboard. Do you intend to keep it within just the competition circuit world, or do you intend to make it continue on even as for professional dance credits? Is there something attached to that, or are we just sticking to the competition circuit?
No, we are not. Absolutely. So, we actually just had a lot of university dance teams that just verified. So everyone, you are welcome to verify. ICDRdance.com is how to do it. It happens in mere minutes at home. If you are under the age of 18, your parent does use government issue photo ID to make that permanent online connection to protect their dancer who is a minor. But yes, we have professional tiers as well, Menina, and we're going to be taking a lot of the existing resources that exist in the industry and centralizing them on a home dashboard for a pre-professional dancer so they know where to go and have more tips and tricks on how to be the best version of themselves, essentially. So yeah, we have a lot planned.
Now, for the dancer, if this ID that they have and they want to make it public, they want to actually showcase their profile, do they have control and ability to share what they want to share and withhold what they want to withhold? And
Menina, you're spot on. I love it. She already knows all the solutions we've already, developed because she just gets the business. So there are 2 tiers. It's absolutely free right now, everyone. So you can go to ICDRdance.com and get your safeguard ID, your industry dance ID. And then in September of 2026, we're going to be rolling out our subscriptions. So the baseline subscription is less than a cup of coffee a month. That gets you your ID number that will work in multiple systems, customer support, centralizing waivers. But then the next tier, that's where accident insurance comes in. Right. So we're finally giving dancers accident insurance, which will protect them at the studio level, the competition level, conventions, anytime in that season. That is something that we're adding value to that tier. And then in development, Menina, we have a pro tier. So that way they'll be able to take their verified wins, their verified participation.
And take it to the next chapter.
Yeah. And push it to a public profile, where they will also be able to host videos. And it's like a real-time snapshot of what they've won or completed or achieved in the industry that could help them apply for PACE University or for post-secondary dance programs or anywhere their life might take them, right?
I love that. So cool. Well, I would love this opportunity to open it up for Q&A for our mentees. So first up, we'll have Brooklyn.
Hi, I'm Brooklyn Bell Reese. I'm from Statesboro, Georgia, and I'm 16. So my question is how do you think that your life would have benefited from like what you're doing right now with ICDR?
Oh my gosh. I mean, great question, Brooklyn. To be honest, I can't remember everything I won. It would just be a nice shoebox of memories. Look what actors get on IMDb list, everything they've ever kind of acted in. That's what I see. It's your ID number, everyone. After an awards weekend, an event director can just press a button and all those awards would automatically populate to these unique participant IDs, because that's how it works in sport. It's just that is actually public, but in our version, we're making that record private. So that portfolio of achievements is only visible to the studio director, you, the dancer, and your verified parent. So I think it would have just given me a lot more respect, Brooklyn. I think it would have given me a lot more confidence in my own career. And, I do want to say something. My sister is the president and CEO of the Canada Games Council. Now, what that is a massive sport organization where all of her lacrosse, gymnastics, hockey associations feed into her national sport board and organization. So I just always had a first front row seat to athlete treatment versus dancer treatment. And, I'm 43 years old. I've inherited the division in this industry that came before me, but it doesn't mean I don't have to challenge it, right? I really do feel everyone on this call is not given the respect that dance is owed, right? It's a very challenging sport. And I do say sport because we are all athletic. And I think that dancers deserve more. So that was a long answer, Brooklyn. I'm sorry.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so
You're
much,
welcome.
Brooklyn. Next, we have Kelly. Introduce yourself and what is your question?
Hi, my name is Kelly Doltini, and I'm originally from New Jersey, and I'm calling from upstate New York. I'm 23, and my question is, did you have any type of backlash when you started your program or any type of negativity?
Yes, Kelly. Dance is very personal. I love the name of it. Dance is also a business, right? And you have to operate yourself like a business. And, we can get very personal in this industry. And I feel like if you upset someone, sometimes you turn the other way and you never look back, right? And that's where the fragmented industry starts and everyone's got an opinion. Imagine if we ever tried to have a governing body in dance. It won't work.
Too many cooks in the kitchen.
Who's going to represent jazz? Who's going to represent hip hop? Good luck, right? You know
Even
what I
within
mean?
genre, they talk about what's this? What's hip hop? Who's the creators? What is real? What is not? What are the elements? Yeah, there would just be debate and argument even within each bubble.
But, with this system, a birth date,
Nobody can debate that.
you can't debate a birth date. And our birth dates get locked once you verify, because why would a birth date change? And Kelly, they do. I'm telling you, it's something we don't like to talk about, but, there are unfortunately studios that input the wrong data, and every event out there are relying on these administrators and these studios to not lie and not cheat. And the systems are so separated that they're not working together to make sure that there's more industry alignment across the board, right? Again, there are multiple profiles for all of these dancers on multiple systems. What if there was just one to represent anyone and it was all verified information? And then that's where the magic can really start. So I can't tell you enough, everybody. It's actually very inspiring that, some people have had their elbows up and they say, oh, checking ages, how ridiculous. I'm like, yes, that's part of it. But imagine what, it would mean for you guys to have a record, right? It's just going to take some time. So
Thank you so much, Kelly. Next up, we have Piper.
Hi, my name is Piper Eastwood. I'm 10 years old and I live in Fairfax, Virginia. My question for you is, what is your favorite job that you've done and what surprised you about it?
Favorite job I've ever done and what surprised me about it. I loved Hairspray. Oh my goodness. I mean, there's something amazing about that musical. And I like dancing on set, but there's something different about a live theater and a live audience. It's different every time. So we did Hairspray. We got to tour and I was with George Wendt, the late George Wendt, who Menina would know from the show Cheers. He was Norm on Cheers.
Yes.
Yeah, and he was wonderful. And the whole cast was just next level talented. So I think that was probably one of the best jobs I ever did. The thing that surprised me at that job was that we actually set like a massive $1 million show in less than 2 weeks, which is unheard of for that big of a show. Yeah.
Oh, wow. All right. Thank you so much, Piper. Next up, we have, you're welcome, sweetheart. Next up, we have Michael. Introduce yourself. What is your question?
Hi, it's so nice to meet you. My name is Michael Salmon. I'm from Westwood, New Jersey. And my question is about maintaining bridges, especially with like physical distance. How have you managed to maintain that without feeling like an intrusion on like a person?
Good question, Michael. You know what's really great? Like, I tend to help my other friends cast as well. You know what I mean? Like, just sharing a casting on your social can go a long way, you know, and they can be across the pond or they can be in Vancouver instead of being around Toronto. And even like, I think if, as long as you really focus on, you know, making a connection, Michael, when you're with them the first time, right? Like, guys, remember people's names. I cannot tell you enough. If you don't remember someone's name, they're going to feel a way about it, right? So when I'm looking at you in the eyes, Michael, and I'm going to say, Michael, you know, it was a really nice day today. Michael, you were really great in that scene. And if we ever work together again, Michael, I said your name 3 times. So there's a lot less of a chance for me to ever forget your name, right? So I just want to encourage you guys, try to find a way to say the name 3 times. And then that will encourage, kind of forge like a permanent connection too with that person. But going back to your question, Michael, is just like, don't be afraid to say hey and reach out every once in a while. As long as you're not like gloating with what you're up to, you know, you're kind of very curious about their life. I think people respond a lot more to that than, you know, I just wanted you to know, you know, I just booked the new Wicked movie. You know, hope you're well too. Everyone's like, okay, well, good for you.
I love that you said that. And a quote that I'll steal from someone else is, be the most interested in the room, not the most interesting in the room. Showing interest in someone else. Everybody loves to talk about themselves. Just ask them questions and they will just open up, and suddenly they'll be your best friend. When you just are talking about all your accomplishments and all the cool things, people tune out. They're like, okay, yeah, that's great. But if you're interested in them, then suddenly they're like, oh my gosh, I love you. And you're like, I haven't said a word.
Right. Yeah. No, totally.
All right. Thank you so much, Michael, for your question.
You,
We're going to move on to Drake.
Hi, my name is Drake McKeever. I'm 21 and I'm currently in Toronto right now. My question is, what was the first thing you did when you moved to Toronto? And is there anything that I should be aware of?
Dancer Transition Resource Center. Absolutely. Do you know of them?
Yes, I did. I just did a little workshop with them, I think.
Okay, great. They're wonderful. And guys, this is another thing. No one's going to, you know, I'm glad you asked that. There are a bunch of existing support organizations out for dancers that are transitioning into professional spheres, out of professional spheres. So like, I use the DTRC because they pay for my therapy, because yeah, they're absolutely fantastic. And I've been a member for many, many years. Are you on like the Equity eDrive?
Not yet. I have to get on. That's a good one.
Yeah. So yeah, like, and that they just throw out like open calls, you know, there's like Mandy.com, which is like, you know, I don't know if people use that as much anymore. Obviously you should have your own profile on Actors Access as well. But I love the DTRC a lot. Oh, and also if you're ever looking for jobs, I love the Cultural Careers Council of Ontario. That is a wonderful job board where you'll see like fringe festival jobs, things like the Luminato Festival or Fall for Dance North, things that are really kind of what we would get excited about. Even if you're like working the red carpet at TIFF, you know, you might be like standing beside Ariana. You're like, okay, well, this is a good job. And then it's fun and you kind of meet people that way. And believe me, you'll be meeting a lot of dancers, actors. So hope that helps.
Well,
awesome. Yes, that was
great advice. And I hope you guys get a chance to connect in person since you guys are in the same city.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Drake. Next up, we have Joella Ramos.
Hi, I'm Joella Ramos. I am from the Caribbean, but I'm currently in New York City. So my question is, you talked about that you got into the room through another agency. So I was curious, like, do you have advice for somebody who doesn't have an agent? And of course, we have like Playbill and that kind of stuff, but how to get into the room where you're actually not allowed to because you don't have an agent?
No, I mean, yeah, spot on. I mean, there's even like, I've cheated, I've snuck into rooms before. I definitely secured that audition through an agency. I know Menina would know it,
Don't
and
tell
they
me
just
offline.
yeah, they don't look at things. And that's why I knew that they would just think that they actually took my resume from my agency and then made my own, their own version on their letterhead. Anyway, so I guess I think it's, going back to what Menina was saying is like, it's networking and contacts, right? You know what I mean? Like, if you're already kind of knowing who that person is, pleading your case is not embarrassing. You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing wrong with you wanting your dream to come true and saying, look, I don't have an agent. I know that there's a closed call on this day. Can you just give me a chance? What's the worst that can happen? They're going to say no, you're not going anyway. I just like highly recommend you kind of take a leap of faith on yourself and put yourself out there. Because again, it's not going to just arrive on a silver platter. It absolutely will take, I probably got like 85 no's before I got my first yes. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so true.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, if you put it this way, if you find out about an audition through a friend, or just show up. Even if you're not on that list at the check-in when they're like, okay, what's your name? And they're looking for you on the list. I'm sorry, I just found out about the audition. I don't have an agent. Can I please just be given an opportunity to get in the room? And then they might be like, okay, fine, go ahead.
Oh, and I also just want to say, like, I went to an open call recently. And again, now I've told you my age. I haven't been to an open call in a long time. And open calls do make someone feel away sometimes. I showed up 10 minutes before it closed because I was lucky enough to be equity. So I didn't have to wait when everyone else was waiting at like 5 a.m. Anyway, why I'm telling you this, yeah, and there were people, there were hundreds of people. It was for Anne Juliet. It's on in Toronto right now. Guys, I'm not kidding you. I stood up there and all of my students were beside me. My former mini pop kids were in my crew and in my group, and I was cut faster than the song could even start. Like, I was just out, like whatever. But I was so nervous because I hadn't seen so many people in so long. It was one of the best days ever. Like, I don't know why I was so nervous. I don't know. It was just a really rewarding experience seeing some of my mini pop kids get kept to stay. And then guess what happened? A week later, the casting director offered me a job in the Jonas Brothers movie that was shooting in Toronto. It's because I went to that audition, or else I would have never been offered the job. I'm sorry I didn't take it because I was booked on something else, but it was a reminder to don't be afraid. Guys, I was literally having so much anxiety the night before, doing it all to myself. There was no reason for me to be afraid. I know what I'm doing. I know people. I know myself. And I did fine in the audition. And had I not, then now I'm top of mind at that casting director again. They're like, oh, Jamie's back in the game.
Well, and me and Shannon just did that audition in New York City. And like, I'm not a union, I'm not equity. And I waited from 8:30 in the morning until 3:30 in the afternoon. But the audition went amazing. It was worth the wait.
Good for you.
Yes, I love that. I love that for you. Good for you. Now, it was an open call as well in New York?
Yeah, it was an open call, but it was equity and union. But they also saw other people. So that was nice. But it was a long waiting game. Yeah.
Yeah. Open calls can be a full day. And open calls, make sure you have snacks and water and change of clothes. And because you could be camping out.
I heard the song of the choreo. So I learned it whenever I was waiting. So I killed the choreo. And yes, I did my thing.
Was it Confident? Did you do Confident?
It was the end song. It was, what was the finale? It's the finale.
Maybe Larger Than Life, or that's the opening. I can't remember.
No, it was the finale.
I'm glad you went.
I love that for you. And Jamie, I'm not surprised you were auditioning next to your old students because you look like a baby. Like you do, you do not.
Oh, it was
look
Can't
like
Stop
your
Your
age.
Feeling.
Ah,
Can't Stop Your
Oh, yeah.
That
Gotcha.
one.
Yeah. Fair.
I love that. I love that. Yeah,
Well,
you
I
look
think
a baby.
Menina, I was 34 playing 15, I think, or 14.
Huh?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's a stretch. Yeah, I totally know the feeling. That happened to me. I was doing a Nickelodeon movie and I was 28, and the other dancers, like the other lead, Victoria Justice, she was 15 at the time. And we were in the same show choir together. We were high school friends, and I was
Yeah.
twice her age.
My goodness.
So I totally know the feeling. It is a bit strange when you're auditioning with old students or people that you've known since you were a kid. You're like, wait a minute, how is this happening? But,
Yeah.
hey, when you look young, you look young.
Absolutely. It's paying off.
Yes. All right. Thank you so much, Joella. Next up, we have Savannah.
Hi, I'm Savannah Key. I'm 15 years old and I'm from Sarasota, Florida. And my question to you is, what do you hope people remember about you and like your career and like what you did?
Honestly, before it was I just wanted to nurture talent. I get the shivers on the back of my neck when I see someone kind of reaching their full potential, or being the best version of themselves on stage or landing a gig, and I think Menina and I share that same quality, to be honest. But my new role as executive director of the ICDR, that is the legacy I will leave behind. I want all of you to be treated better. I want all of you to have more respect. I want you to have more opportunities and more industry alignment to honor what you go through and kind of finally catch our industry up to sport. That is the legacy that I am determined to leave behind. And I think aligning the industry to realize or to work together and be more collaborative is working. We used to be so polar opposites and working in our own silos, but I think there's a new collaborative movement happening and it's pretty inspiring. So
Thank
you so
you.
much, Savannah. And our last question from our mentee is Tommy.
My name's Tommy. I'm 8 years old. I'm from Herndon, Virginia. And my question is, where did you get your inspiration to start dancing?
Oh, that's a good question. There's one movie that changed my life, and there's one show musical that changed my life. The movie that changed my life is also a musical. I love Broadway. I am a Broadway baby. I'm obsessed. There's nothing I love more than singing, acting, and dancing. And when that marries into that trifecta, I just freak out. So going back to the movie that changed my life was Newsies. I don't know. There was something about it that I just wanted to do everything those guys were doing on stage or on film. And then I knew that it would become a stage version. I called that when I was 8 years old. I was like, that's going to be a stage version and I want to do it. And then I think another moment in my career that was really inspiring was realizing everyone's different, right, Tommy? Everyone is different. So when people looked at me early in my career, I was a hip hop dancer. It didn't really fit into the typical hip hop mold. People were like, that's our hip hop teacher. That's our hip hop dancer. Instead of letting that get to you, I think you need to understand who you are. And I wasn't perfect for every role, but Disney loved me, right? So I think the moment that really resonates with me is I auditioned for a show, Descendants. You guys know Descendants, right? So I will never forget Descendants because I was in a group of guys that were trickers. One guy beside me was going to do a backflip. I knew it. This guy was going to do windmills beside me. I was in the middle. The guy behind me was going to do all these turns. And I'm not a freestyler. I don't have a lot of tricks in my back pocket, but I'm really good at choreo and I'm a very good performer. So what do I do when all these people are going to outshine me? Why I'm giving you this whole story is because it was an evil song, guys. And I just stood there and I just went like this. And I walked up to the table and I threw my glasses on the table of the casting directors. I walked back and then I did the choreo. And there were people flipping here, turning and on the floor, and no one was looking at them. They were only looking at me. And all I did was take off my glasses, walk up to them and look like I was going to hurt them. And then they were like, whoa, I used my disadvantage to my advantage. So I think that moment, Tommy, for me, because everyone still talks about that when Jamie took off his glasses. I took off my glasses. That's all I did. Sometimes people are like, why are you wearing your glasses? And I'm like, well, they're part of who I am. And they actually made me memorable in that moment, right? So
I love that. And sometimes it's a great lesson about freestyle, guys. Sometimes less is more, especially when you're in a situation like that, when you know you don't have the tricks to outshine the people next to you. You use your performance quality. And I've seen people in auditions, not the glasses, but literally just stand there with just this look and then walk slowly forward while everybody else is like dancing. They're just slow. And then suddenly you're just drawn, the contrast of what's around you, it just gets sucked right in. And I've seen that happen in many audition rooms. And I think it's so powerful. So dancers, sometimes less is more. And I love that you're remembered as the guy who took off his glasses.
Addie Chan was running that audition.
Do you want to know a fun fact? Addie Chan was one of my students. I used to choreograph her comp routines when she was younger. Oh.
I love Addie.
And then talk about dancing with your students. And then we did a movie together years later, Kicking It Old School. We were in the same movie. So it. I totally know the feeling of dancing with your students. You're like, this feels funny.
Yeah.
Well, before we go, do you have any final words?
I really want everyone to understand that we are at a turning point right now, and I need your help. Okay, so ICDR is built for you. It's supposed to bring more respect, fairness, legitimacy, and safety to the competitive dance world. So tell your friends, tell your family, tell your studios, tell everyone to reach out to icdrdance.com. It is time we work together to forge a new path forward, right? Everyone raised their hand when they said they've questioned the age or level of a competitor before. There is a way out of what we've all kind of complained about for years, maybe in the wings or in the car ride home on the way home from an event. Finally, there are people behind ICDR building solutions to make your jobs, your lives better. And that I need your help. So Menina, you've got a great mentor, but talk about ICDR, discover more, go on the website, follow us on Instagram. And if you want to get more involved, if you want to use your story to help make sure that the generations to come have more respect, have more fairness, and have more safety, then just reach out to us. That's my ask.
I love that. And the dancers, I put the website in the chat as well. So you guys can go check that out. What is your handle so people can follow you on Instagram?
Jamie_Hodgins, Hodgins. And you can follow at ICDR Dance as well.
Amazing. Well, on that note, on behalf of the Business of Dance, we send you lots of love. Dancers, give them some love. Thank you so much for sharing your journey, your story, your mission, your company, and everything that you're doing. Congratulations. It's so great to reconnect and to be able to collaborate. We were talking earlier about collaboration. We can definitely do more together. Jamie, it was a pleasure having you. I love that we reconnected. Let's definitely stay in touch.
For sure. Thank you so much for having me, Menina.
Thank you so much, everyone. Dancers.
Bye. Thank you, Jamie.
Bye.
Welcome. Bye, everyone.
And that concludes another episode of the Business of Dance podcast.
We hope you found today's conversation insightful and gained valuable knowledge.
Be sure to join us next time for more inspiring interviews with top professionals in the dance industry.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to The Business of Dance on your favorite platform and take a moment to leave a review. Your feedback is greatly appreciated.
This podcast is brought to you by the Business of Dance online mentorship program to help aspiring professional dancers create their dream dance careers.
Thank you for listening. Until next time.